Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Explorations in Savitri, with our beloved Lullaby. We continue in the book of the Divine Mother, Canto 4, The Vision and the Boon, and I have us on page 337, beginning with the light his soul had brought, his mind has lost.
Yes. So this whole passage and several places we'll see how comprehensively Sri Aurobindo describes human beings, us, humanity. And we can very readily connect. It's like a supreme psychologist showing us the state our own house is in. Before we try to change outer events, circumstances, situations. But the principle of yoga is unless you change within, you will end up in the same state. Even when you shift a situation and circumstances, because there is no change within, it will bring the same results. It will bring the same pain, suffering sooner or later. So, the emphasis being on the inner change, we must first know what is this inner being, what constitutes us. And we read this wonderful passage which continues that our life is full of contraries, contradictions, conflicts, acknowledged or not acknowledged. When not acknowledged, we project the conflict outside. So we have always others with whom we are in quarrel. As we grow in consciousness, we discover that it is within that we are in quarrel. So if it is others, the solution will never fully come because it depends on someone else. We lose our autonomy. And if it is within us, then there is a hope and possibility of resolving the issue.
We might also say that in all the history of humanity, so many communes have been formed.
Yes.
With one leader. The leader goes and things
It
falls
collapses,
apart.
that's right. And Sri Aurobindo cautions about it when he speaks in that letter to Barin. He says, I don't want to repeat the old fiasco.
Yes.
So this wonderful line, the light his soul has brought, his mind has lost. So this is the essential difference between, one of the fundamental differences between what can be called as the thought that has been nurtured and nourished in the subcontinent of India in different forms, and the thought, spiritual thought, which has taken roots outside and turned into a religion, more formal religion. And this is what Swami Vivekananda started when he spoke in his famous speech. He says, we have learned
in America, in
Chicago, that fundamentally man is divine. Now look at the difference. Fundamentally man is divine. He is not a sinner or an evil who has to be saved by some kind of an external process. He is fundamentally divine. But he has forgotten his true nature, and hence, nature has brought in all the twists and turns. Why nature has brought in, that only Sri Aurobindo explains. But at least this is the fundamental truth, that there is within us something known as a soul, which carries its own light, in whose light we can see and understand ourselves and this world much better. But where is this light? The mind has lost. Because like Dumatsena, we have become blind, and the whole education process and parents and everybody trains us to lose this light, to distrust it. Everything develops like that. The light his soul had brought, his mind has lost. All he has learned is soon again in doubt. A sun to him seems the shadow of his thoughts. Then all is shadow again and nothing true. Long back, there was a seminar, of course, psychology people are there in Delhi University, and after which I stopped going because, all people called to, with spiritual bent and spiritual inclination, there were a number of subjects. But there was not a single subject on the soul and the divine. So I said, we are trying to fit it into, still within that frame. It doesn't work like that. There is no spirituality without a soul. There is no spirituality without the divine. You may call it by different names. You may call it highest, you may call it thou, it doesn't matter. But there is a state which is far beyond our mind and something far deeper than the surface consciousness. And how to come in touch with it, that should be the focus. So, but what we are taught is to doubt. It's regarded as a great capacity. In India there was a debate some time back on asadoma sadgamya. So he says, how can you take it for granted? You have to start with doubt. So it was the silliest argument, and those who were arguing for and against were both being silly.
But that is taught in most
Most,
schools,
yes.
especially in the West.
Yes.
Doubt everything, challenge everything.
Yeah. I mean, nothing wrong in. There is a healthy skepticism which is tinged with a seeking spirit. But if you doubt a priori, then there is no seeking spirit. This is the fundamental difference. I don't know whether there is sun or not, but it's worth trying. There are countless who have found, and it's worth trying and discovering. And the other is sun doesn't exist because there are so many who don't see it, don't know it. Now, this is an a priori denial. This is dangerous. Whereas a doubt which agnosticism, which leads to a seeking, is perfectly valid. A sun to him seems the shadow of his thoughts. Big books, academic books, sun, which is nothing but shadow. But he thinks it is something very luminous, Then all is shadow again and nothing true. Unknowing what he does or whither he tends, he fabricates signs of the real in ignorance. So there are systems, philosophies, fabricate signs of the real. And that's why all the wise who have ever known put in paradoxical terms. When they are asked, do you know God? So they will say, no. Why? Because there is always something unknowable. It's not that they have profound experience. That's how Buddha was misunderstood, still misunderstood. Anatmavad. He simply shook us from all constructs we may form of the divine. He will always remain beyond comprehension. That's something very beautiful because it helps us to remain young and move constantly beyond and beyond. The moment you say, I know him, he's a good guy sitting out there with a carrot and a rod, probably wears some nice glasses.
A long beard.
Oh, long beard, that's right, I forgot. All this is so dangerous, I know him. Unknowing what he does or whither he tends, he fabricates signs of the real in ignorance. He has hitched his mortal error to truth star. So he thinks, that this is going to lead him to heaven. I don't want to qualify further. Heaven with 70 or whatever number.
No, we'll pass on that.
Heaven of our own constructs, of our own wishes, of our own follies and stupidities. Yes. He has hitched his mortal error to truth star. Wisdom attracts him with her luminous masks, but never has he seen the face behind. This should be the quest. Nowhere we should stop unless we have really seen, without that just turning it into even the highest truth, even with Sri Aurobindo and the mother, we can turn them into a belief system. But it's a yoga. And we must go right through to the end. Doesn't matter how many lives it takes, but that should be the spirit. That's how, Swami Vivekananda became Vivekananda. Why? What is the difference between, again, sign of a healthy skepticism? He says, I don't believe. So he says, oh, is it? But Mother Kali tells me otherwise. He says, who is this Kali? He says, why? You want to see her? Can you show me? Acha, you will see her. And then he puts a hand over his heart. And suddenly he sees the whole world trembling and vanishing. He's scared. He comes out of that experience literally frightened. And after that he says, no, I don't want to see. It can be very frightening and unnerving to see all your so-called identities, layers dissolve as if they were nothing. Then he tells him that I have put you here on hold, locked you, and given the key to Kali. It's only when she wants, your work is over, then she will give you. Otherwise, you will run away. So you see what kind of a converse.
And he passed away at 39.
Yes, 39, but having done so much. A giant ignorance surrounds his lore. There is another story about the face behind. Someone, Totapuri, he came and told him, he said, what is all this madness? You are speaking to Kali, this, that. How can these are all hallucinations. Sri Ramakrishna said, okay, I'll ask Kali his way. So he went and told Mother Kali, this man says it's all hallucination. What is it? Now imagine. So Kali makes a visitation to Totapuri. Next day he says, I am so sorry. What did you do? He says, I did nothing. I went and asked Mother. He's asking for proof. How do I prove? So, it's Sri Aurobindo, when somebody asks him about Krishna, he says, which Krishna are you pitting me against? The one who appeared before me in the jail, the one with whom I have spent nights after nights in his embrace, with the one with whom I found my identity. He says, which Krishna are you pitting me against, that this Krishna is greater or you are greater? He says, there is a total identity. Assigned to meet the cosmic mystery in the dumb figure of a material world, his passport of entry falls, and his personage, he is compelled to be what he is not. See what a task that is given to man. Though he is a tiny little creature on a small little speck of a dot, if you see the enormity of the universe, but he is assigned to discover the entire secrets of the universe. Not only of the material, but many other universes, multiverse. But for that, the passport to enter past the material world, which is first given to him as the crude material. He cannot enter. He shows his passport and he is reject. What is the passport? I am a material being, a body and brain. He says, then you can't go past matter. That's the passport of entry falls, and his personage. Who are you? I am Professor so-and-so.
Yeah.
Sir, denied. Please reconsider. I am a Harvard professor. Sir, denied. Please see, I have so many publications to my credit. Even few books I have written. Sir, denied. Your passport is false. Your personage is false. I am mother's child. I have forgotten all professorship. Come.
Agree.
Let's explore. So we are compelled to be what we are not, because we have shut ourselves into this material formula. He obeys the inconscience he had come to rule. So all the various laws of nature, which are nothing but habits, we are compelled to obey. And sings in matter to fulfill his soul. Awakened from her lower driven forms, the earth mother gave her forces to his hands, and painfully he guards the heavy trust. What forces? In light of intelligence, a tremendous power. It can lead us to a great luminous beyond if we really turn it upward and inward. That's how the Gita puts it. It says the same intelligence, you turn outward and below, it becomes discursive and lost. Vyavsaitmak buddhi, that's how he puts it. You turn it inside and upward, and it will discover the ineffable. Look at his heart, forces of nature, emotion, drive him crazy, mad and everything. But turn this emotion in the direction within and you find the divine beloved. Even passions can be used, passionate about divine work. Hanuman's strength, he became everything, Imagine a monkey becoming a god. So wonderful. Somebody once was, there was a little discussion. Somebody said, what is all this in Hinduism? You have monkey god. I said, no, don't look at it like that. It's monkey becoming God. So we have a hope. If monkey can become God, we are at least human beings.
Hope for us.
Even monkey's restlessness can become godlike if he turns it towards divine work. So, all these forces are given to us and we don't know what to do. Painfully we guard so that these forces can destroy us also. So we have to guard, keep them sheltered, because if they go, it's a fire that can burn down the house. Passion without, any kind of restraint or emotions, they can lead life to so much unhappiness. Intellect can become a problem. But when turned rightly, these forces of nature, they can give him entry into.
And Earth Mother has given
Earth
it.
Mother has given. His mind is a lost torch bearer on our roads. He is a torch bearer. But show us the way. He says, I don't know where I have kept the torch. There is so much humor, subtle humor in Savitri. His mind is a lost torch bearer. Without the torch, he is supposed to show the way. And that's what is called in the Upanishad as the blind leading the blind. So, first let the torch be lit. Illumining breath to think and plasm to feel, he labors with his slow and skeptic brain, held by the reason's vacillating fires. Utmost that he can imagine or think or hope to have is reason. There are many, many ways of knowing which are beyond reason, but he stops with reason. And vacillating fire. So reason convinces that this is true. I was just discussing 200 years back, people used to use leeches and bloodletting as the treatment.
Oh, yes.
One of the American president died, and it was the royal physician. He had a throat pain, what today would be pharyngitis, treated with amoxicillin, augmentin. So he treated with bloodletting. Now he became worse because the fellow was getting weak. More bloodletting. He ultimately died of sheer blood loss. And that time the rational people believed that this is the cure. Today we have these cures, and 100 years down the line, doctors will say how barbaric these fellows were. They were cutting the body with knife like this. So this is how, reason's vacillating fires. Today you are convinced, tomorrow it's in doubt again. So the fire vacillates. Skepticism and vacillating fire. To make his thought and will a magic door, for knowledge to enter the darkness of the world, and love to rule a realm of strife and hate. So he is laboring, and he can use this intelligence as a magic door. But for that, instead of skepticism, with faith he has to make it into a laser point, knocking at the gates of the unknowable. Then the door opens and the light comes. Or he has to make this love within his heart aspire to the highest heavens to bring the perfect love, perfect joy upon earth. But ordinarily, that is not the fate. A mind impotent to reconcile heaven and earth, and tied to matter with 1,000 bonds, he lifts himself to be a conscious God. This we know. A mind impotent to reconcile heaven and earth. We want the heavens, but we don't want to lose the earth. And when we turn towards earth, we lose heaven. This is a common problem. Very often people say that how to keep the presence all the time. They say that when we come to Pondicherry, it's so nice. But how to keep the presence? So it takes long. The first reconciling point is the psychic. First reconciling. The last is the supermind. Other than that, there is no way you can reconcile. You will be either here or you will be there. So, we have lost that for the moment. And yet we aspire to be a God. Even when a glory of wisdom crowns his brow, when mind and spirit shed a grandiose ray, to exalt this product of the sperm and gene, this alchemist's miracle from plasma and gas. And he who shared the animals run and crawl, lifts his thought stature to the immortal's heights. His life still keeps the human middle way. His body he resigns to death and pain, abandoning matter is too heavy charge. Look at the entire range. He says, yes, his body is still of an animal make, sperm and gene and gas. But sometimes, here and there, the thought can free itself, and discover something beautiful, high. Yet it is unable to change his life. It continues to struggle. He resigns his body to death and pain. You know that story of that Dante's
Inferno.
Inferno, where he has that vision and he sees Virgil.
Yes.
And Virgil says, I can make you cross this river, but beyond it I cannot take you. He says, you have been such a great intellectual. You have actually he almost foresaw the coming of a new consciousness and a new being. He's not an ordinary, philosopher. He's not a thinker. He's beyond it. Almost a half-seer. He says, no, I cannot take you beyond. Why? He says, because I still had doubt. And I lacked faith. He admits. He says, I still had doubt and I lacked faith. So who will take me beyond? Wait, there is somebody you know. Who comes? Lo and behold, a girl whom he had loved. And she had died. And she was an ordinary peasant girl. He says, you have come to take me beyond? Yes. Who are you? I am Beatrice. Don't you recognize me? Yes.
Yes. Oh.
You had loved me once. It's for that love I have come. She is a portion of the Divine Mother and he didn't know she was moving around. She left her body and takes him to the high and she bids him, don't look back. That is the only command given to him. I'll carry you to the highest, but don't look behind. Look at,
And we have seen this often in classical literature.
Yes.
Persephone.
Yes, that's right, Persephone. And there's another one that, again, Greek literature, Orpheus. So, he descends into Hades.
Yes.
And with the music, he's trying to, just like Ruru and Pramadvara, love and death. And again, he's told, don't look back. Right. It's like if you keep on entertaining the past, forget about the future. So that's the whole, A thaumaturge skeptic of miracles.
Beautiful.
What a paradox. He's the magician and he wants magic. That's why this need for miracles, which attracts people, is because we do carry within us a master magician, but the mind is skeptic. No, it's not possible. Today only, every day you hear such fantastic story. One lady told me, I just casually asked her, what her life has been. She's 75. It's so interesting when you read people's life. Every life is worthy of a biography. Honestly. Everybody who has lived past 60, I'm going to be soon, so I'm including myself. Everybody. Their life can be a wonderful biography if you really see all the things inside. So she says, long back she had come with her husband. To cut a long story short, and he had a chest pain, ECG showed, a severe heart attack. Another half an hour he'll die, and he was told to rush to nursing home. But something happened and they didn't feel up to it, and they took flowers from the samadhi, put in the pocket, said, no, whatever happens, let it happen in home. Nothing happened. Next day he's fit and fine. So he came again. Now ECG is normal. So doctor said, how you should have died. He said, but I am alive. What to do? He died after some years in Nagpur, not here. They had to go away. So you see, there are things, everything is possible in this world. But something within, skeptic of thaumaturge, skeptic of miracles. Of course, this not to say that, we should be leading life like, just thinking of impossible miracles. But by miracle means there is always a possibility of intervention of higher forces which can change the fixed course of destiny. That's what miracle means here. A spirit left sterile of its occult power. Look at this line. The omnipotent dwells in this house of flesh. But you can't do anything about a sickness, about a body. We have to go to a doctor. Ask the spiritual people why. Karma. That's a very neat caveat. Well, can't he dissolve karma? He is omnipotent. No, that you have to suffer. Dispensation. And the mother says, my child, the grace can completely dissolve karma.
Yes.
She gives examples. She says, and it doesn't need big things. She says, sometimes one moment's call is enough. A little aspiration. Then she says, even if you can't call an aspiration, just a little faith is enough for the grace to dissolve karma. Because that's what is omnipotence. But why this omnipotence doesn't work? It gives us a spirit left sterile of its occult power by an unbelieving brain and credulous heart. Between the two, unbelieving brain, no, it's not possible. Heart, oh, then immediately it must happen. Credulous heart, like those TV shows where, oh, what are you having? Okay, done, you are cured. It takes time. There is a process by which even miracle works. And if we don't, so credulous heart. Halfway he stops his star of destiny. Thus has he missed, oh, yes. He leaves the world to end where it began. His work unfinished, he claims a heavenly prize. What is the unfinished work? Is transformation of matter. That's why we have come into this world. Otherwise, there was no business for the soul to leave such wonderful state. We are plunged into darkness so that it be transformed into light. That is the Asadoma Sadgamya, the original. At many levels one can take it. So, we don't finish that. We have just found something, had some experience, or worse still, subscribed to a formal religion. Now we say, I must go to the highest heaven. It will be a heaven of our making, that's it. Because the work is unfinished. This is the work of works. Work is left unfinished, reminds us of life divine, that Sri Aurobindo's famous line. The ascent to the divine life is the work of works.
The human journey.
The human journey, that's right. The ascent to the divine life is the work of works, is the human journey, the work of works, the sole acceptable sacrifice, without which man would be nothing except like a worm who has somehow managed to form in a little speck of mud and dust amidst the appalling immensities of the universe. What is the work of works? The ascent to the divine life. If a child says to a parent, 12th standard, I want to do work, very good. What work you want to do? Ascend to the divine life. Show to a psychiatrist. Whose lectures are you listening? Do it after retirement. That time he'll say, divine life, this is the time when I can only pray to Lord Yamaraja. Please spare me the nose. Don't make it too tight. Do it quick. Jhatka. Halal. Thus has he missed creation's absolute. Halfway he stops his star of destiny, a vast and vain, long tried experiment, an ill-served, high conception doubtfully done. The world's life falters on not seeing its goal. So we have conceptions of God and everything, but hardly it doesn't change our life a jot, because we are happy to make a belief system out of it and feel comfortable. At least my seat is secured in heaven. That's the end of the journey. It doesn't matter. So that's how we miss the goal. A zigzag towards unknown dangerous ground, ever repeating its habitual walk, ever retreating after marches long, and hardiest victories without sure result, drawn endlessly an inconclusive game. So, even when we think it is victory, Alexander won a victory, Chandragupta Maurya, great empire, and these are great deeds, no doubt, all greatness needs to be, appreciated. But at the end, you go back, you feel you have to do an effort again. You see, Chandragupta Maurya's empire was regarded as a golden, if you read even now, even the tainted history, there also you will read it like a golden rule. With so much blood and so much sacrifice it was won. But it has vanished. His empire extended right from Kandahar right to the southern states. Vanished. So, because till this transformation takes place, all victories will always be half-hearted victory. That's why in 1962 when the mother says, and the deed is done, the victory is won, it is so significant. Because victory means ultimately this. Yes. Few more lines we'll read. So, you would like to read? Sure. It's wonderful. Yes.
In an ill-fitting and voluminous robe, a radiant purpose still conceals its face. A mighty blindness stumbles hoping on, feeding its strength on gifts of luminous chance. because the human instrument has failed. The Godhead, frustrate, sleeps within its seed. A spirit entangled in the forms it made. A spirit entangled in the forms it made. His failure is not failure, whom God leads. Through all, the slow, mysterious march goes on. An immutable power has made this mutable world. A self-fulfilling transcendence treads man's road, the driver of the soul upon its path. It knows its steps, its way is inevitable. And how shall the end be vain when God is God?
So beautiful. So, as always, Sri Aurobindo, toward the end, summarizes and uplifts everything.
Yes.
So, till now we see man's strange state. So, what is the solution? And it ends with, in an ill-fitting and voluminous robe, the body, ill-fitting, the soul, angushtha matra purusha. Voluminous robe, so many layers around, A radiant purpose still conceals its face. A mighty blindness tumbles, hoping on, feeding its strength on gifts of luminous chance. When somebody thinks like, giving up, suddenly something happens. A little door is shown, a little light, an incident, and you once again, So like these little glimpses, you move on. So this is how man's journey is.
And he puts chance within all caps.
Yeah, and that's why luminous chance. I mean, it's something which changes the course of life once again. And this is so common in spiritual life. People think, oh, why am I? And suddenly one day something will happen, an inner opening, and you say, yes. So one carries on. Because the human instrument has failed. So it is not the failure of the soul. It is the instrument of nature which are unable to support his journey. So he's sitting in a vehicle, when Rama and Ravana are fighting in Ramayana, it's very interesting. So Ravana is shooting arrows from all over the place. He has some fighter jets, supersonic and all that. And Rama is on the ground. He's got a chariot which can only, take you on the ground. But he is fighting. He doesn't give up. Suddenly the gods descend. And they tell him, sir, this is not fair. He says, I know it is not fair. I know this world is not just and fair. Yet I must fight. So they give him Indra gives him his own chariot. He says, you ride this chariot, it will take you to subtle levels. It's a very fascinating story. Meaning thereby, in the human body as the chariot, the physical plane, you cannot go to the ultimate victory. It will elude you. Because there are so many forces in the cosmos, subtle, far more subtle, occult, nether deeps, high heavens. But when you keep putting effort, when you don't give up, when you continue with one pointed faith in dharma and truth, dharma not in a moral and religious sense, but in its highest sense, then a time comes when a new chariot is given to you. And in that chariot, you can carry on your journey till its ultimate. So this is the interesting story. So human instrument has failed. The Godhead frustrate sleeps within its seed. A spirit entangled in the forms it made. All forms, instruments ultimately emerge from here, and then it gets entangled with it. You discover, the man who discovered the first flight, Wright brothers, not the conception, came much earlier. But he could have conceived, maybe he conceived of much faster planes, but he had no choice, limited by whatever is available. So it's frustrated. It says, I know potentially it can. There was a movie on that, where the first discovery was with one of those Maharashtrian persons, I forget his name, Talpadi. And this was ultimately suppressed, and he succeeded partially, but it couldn't be funded further, and everybody started calling him crazy. And little later the Wright brothers came up, and some people believe that they patented the design and picked it up. That was happening that time quite often, so it's quite likely. But the point is that he would have imagined actually that things, one can fly transatlantic, because once you have a possibility, everything is possible. But he couldn't do it. So the spirit frustrated. He is carrying a dream which he can't fulfill because right now the present instrument does not support it. So this is the situation of man. His failure, but now comes the master line, his failure is not failure, whom God leads. O humanity, however, do not worry. I don't rely on your efforts. I am there. It's like the great word of the Gita, aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshishami masucha. You do what I am asking you to do. And don't worry, I'll take responsibility. Look at it, His failure is not failure. He may seem to fail. He may seem to fall. He may seem to pass away. And yet he will return, the hour of God.
Yes.
He may seem to pass away on wings of nothingness, and yet he will return. Because this is the law. God is guiding, there is no way it can fail. And look at marvelous lines these are. His failure is not failure, whom God leads. So what is that failure? It's a learning experience. It's a effort which will help us towards growing further. It's a part of the process. It's not failure, but it's a part of the process of the change. Through all the slow, mysterious march goes on. Sometimes we don't know whether we are progressing or not, and yet we are progressing. An immutable power has made this mutable world. A self-fulfilling transcendence treads man's road. Man, thou art not the author of this world. Don't worry. I have not consulted you while making the world, and it's my responsibility. Look at the power in this. It's not your responsibility. You do your best. You have a role to play. But even if you fail 10,000 times, I ensure you that the ultimate victory is going to be. This is the spirit, and this is the thought we must always carry. A self-fulfilling transcendence, and it's bound to fulfill itself. The driver of the soul upon its path. Shri Krishna is the charioteer, taking Arjuna through battlefield. People that time may have asked him, are you God? I don't know. People believe you are God, yes. Why are you taking your favorite disciple through the battlefield? Acha, tell me what is going to happen. He did reveal to Draupadi, oh, happen? You are serious? Yes. I see the battle is there and you could have averted, but you are not averting it for some reason. So what are you going to prophesy? Pandavas will win? He says, that for sure. What else? Everything else will be destroyed. Oh, please, my children. No children. Abhimanyu at least? No way. And if you ask Krishna why, he would smile and say, well, that's a mystery and a secret I keep to myself and give to those who have trust in me. At the end of Mahabharata, Sri Aurobindo says, Krishna through the Mahabharata saved the soul of India alive. Another aphorism where he says, men die so that man may live and God be born.
Yes.
So, he says, the driver of the soul upon its path, it knows its steps, its way is inevitable. And how shall the end be vain when God is guide? Sometimes it's so silly, people, one WhatsApp message going around that somebody's name, everybody talks in the name of Gita, that Draupadi asks, why did you allow the war? You are God. And he says, Draupadi, you could have stopped it. Why did you smile? If you speak, so silly. And we circulate it as some great wisdom. As if Krishna poor person was looking at our humanness and saying, oh Draupadi, you shouldn't have laughed. It would have avoided the war. How silly of the whole thing, But this is the beauty of this line, that he says that it knows its steps. This was the steps. These were the steps needed. And if you look at the Mahabharata from another perspective, like the two great wars, men were offering themselves in the great Vishwayagna Havan Kund. And they were being given a great push when mother saw people from the First World War who came injured, he says, I could see that they have become ready for the new consciousness. Just because they were five in the war. We don't understand it that way. And at the end, if people asked Sri Krishna, all this massacre, what is going to survive? He would have said, yes, Kauravas will go, but humanity will survive. What will remain? Will the Kuru Empire remain? No, the Kuru Empire will go. Many people will occupy the throne of Hastinapur. But what will remain? The Gita and the great vision on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. That's what the Gita itself declares.
Five more lines.
5 more lines, then we can stop.
Yes.
However, man's mind may tire or fail his flesh. A will prevails, cancelling his conscious choice. Even when we want to stray, even that will be used. That's one of the first messages Sri Aurobindo gets in the Alipur jail. He says, you don't have to worry. Not only your advocate, but even the advocate who is opposing you cannot but fulfill my purpose.
Yes.
So even the oppositions, even those things which you right now feel is, that's why when Mother was asked about hostile forces, she said something very interesting. He says it's okay from practical purposes to understand it, but it's not good from a spiritual point of view. Sri Aurobindo believed in oneness. He spoke of oneness, not believed in oneness. So you have to learn to see the one behind everything. And eventually that's what rescues you. Outwardly it may look, because hostile force is still a duality. It's a fact. But behind every fact there is a greater truth and a deep wisdom. So that's what he's revealing. However, man's mind may tire or fail his flesh, a will prevails, cancelling his conscious choice. The goal recedes, a boneless vastness calls, retreating into an immense unknown. There is no end to the world's stupendous march. There is no rest for the embodied soul. It must live on, describe all time's huge curve. An influx presses from the closed beyond, forbidding to him rest and earthly ease. Till he has found himself, he cannot pause. And we'll stop with this line. In light there is that leads, a power that aids. So we'll read these lines again, because they're powerful lines.
Yes.
But when people would come to ashram and tell the mother, I have retired, I have done all my duties, I have come to find peace. So mother would say with her touch of humor, subtle humor, in that case go to Arunachal, you will find peace there. Because how can you have peace till the work of the divine is done? How can one think of peace? Yes, you have the peace within. It's a gift of grace which is given. But the work must goes on. You can't say, now I am at peace. In that sense, that I have a peaceful retired life. Now lovely landscape, lovely home. No, peace only when we have found ourselves. And we have found the soul within and the grace above. So we stop here. And we will continue tomorrow at 8:15 p.m. 8:15 to 9.